Beowulf, A Critique of Warrior Culture and Its Values by Ryan Castellano and Ian Kroll.
Since the dawn of civilization, heroes have been used in storytelling to reflect the values of different societies. The ancient Greeks had Hercules and Odysseus to model, and today we have Squirrel Girl. Those in medieval England, however, were stuck with Beowulf. Beowulf represented the great qualities of strength, wisdom, and the ability to defeat his enemies, who are made unique by their abuse of similar traits. This comes into play as the scribe injects his own Christian message to serve as a bridge between cultures and a way for audiences to learn how to act in a Christian society.
During Beowulf's time, many tribes had their own kingdoms and were constantly fighting amongst each other. The lack of a centralized power created a constant struggle for control that resulted in many small, localized, but still bloody wars. In Beowulf, Beowulf says that then over the wide seas, Swedes and Geats battled and feuded and fought without quarter. Hostilities broke out when Hrethel died. Oguntheo's sons were unrelenting, refusing to make peace, campaigning violently. My own kith and kin avenged these evil events, as everybody knows, but the price was high. He describes that they cannot end the fighting amongst each other because no one wants to back down. The warrior culture is further evident when warriors are loyal to their kings. Because they were constantly fighting, warriors needed to be brave, and the leaders needed to be strong and have those loyal soldiers fight for them. Our whole nation will be dispossessed once princes from beyond get tidings of how you turned and fled and disgrace yourselves. A warrior will sooner die than live a life of shame.
Loyalty was necessary to the function of tribal culture. For kings, they needed to prove they were worthy of leading others into battle through their own exploits of bravery and courage. The foot soldiers would then fight side by their king, knowing that what was necessary for victory and for the pride of their own tribe. Soldiers were very competitive and boastful amongst each other. They would often compare their greatness through banter, as seen in Beowulf's conversation with Unferth. Banter was a testament to the competitive nature of battle and the strength of masculine dominance.
The first monster Beowulf has to battle, Grendel, represents the perversion of raw strength. While many warriors used strength to protect kinsmen and allies, Grendel used his mighty strength to kill men and feast on their bodies for food. Beowulf's warrior culture normally revered raw strength, which is part of the reason why they revered Beowulf. But Grendel's actions of killing people using his strength created a perceptual problem for the values of warrior culture. The juxtaposition between Grendel and Beowulf's intents as they use their strength shows the problem of valuing certain qualities of warrior culture. Defeating Grendel involved matching his strength, as because he was impervious to human weapons, you could only fight him hand to hand. It forced warriors to fight Grendel on an even playing field, and caused the death of many people before Beowulf was able to mortally wound him. And although Beowulf does not actually kill Grendel, he does rip off his arm, which eventually causes Grendel to bleed out and drown. The monk copying down the story characterized Grendel's death as God's judgment against a God-cursed demon that had already been eternally damned. Like a man outlawed for wickedness, he, as in Grendel, must await the mighty judgment of God in majesty. The scribe created a dialectic between a holy and unholy adversary, not uncommon in medieval times. Of course, the victor and protagonist was characterized as decidedly Christian, as going against the dominant culture was not part of the times. It created a dynamic of demonizing non-Christians, or people that represented threats to Christianity, like other religions, including Islam. And Beowulf is portrayed as Christianity and the salvation of the people. It also valorizes violence in the name of Christianity. This connects to the political wars of the Catholic Church, who were involved in struggles to expand Christianity's influence like the Crusades.
Grendel's mother's main characteristic is her desire for revenge. During the time period that Beowulf was written in, revenge was a common reason for war, as tribes would continually avenge their fallen comrades again and again and again. In the story, Grendel's mother goes on a massive rampage after the death of Grendel, and no amount of bloodshed is enough to satisfy her, even after killing Aesir and many other men in the hall, which brings Beowulf into the fight. With the Lord's help, Beowulf is able to defeat Grendel's mother by decapitating her. By including God in the defeat, it shows that revenge is fundamentally unchristian, and that it is incapable of progressing a society, as the only result is more bloodshed. Greed is the enemy that plagues the dragon. The dragon is referred to as the Horde Guardian not long after his introduction in the story. This is very telling, as Horde is almost always used as a bad word when describing characters. It is used to villainize the character early on, even though technically the dragon was wronged against by a citizen. Greed came in the form of materials and in pride as well during the time period. It was customary for soldiers to be repaid for their victory over great enemies with treasure of gold and silver. Pride is another form of greed, and it is the vice that eventually brings Beowulf down. He chooses to fight alone one last time for the sake of glory and is killed in the process. At the end of his life, he thanks God for all that he has been given. A reflection for all of us that we must be thankful for the gifts that we were given by God to live in a Christian society.
Although after the dragon is killed, there are no more physical monsters mentioned in the story, there is one last enemy that Beowulf's tribe has to face, and that is ourselves, humans. Beowulf explores why humanity seems unable to make peace with itself and is constantly at war. Wiglaf, Beowulf's helper in the final battle against the dragon, says that now war is looming over our nation. Soon it will be known to Franks and Frisians far and wide that the king, Beowulf, is gone. Hostility has been great amongst the Franks since Hygelac sailed forth at the head of a war fleet into Friesland. The Moravian king has been an enemy to us ever since, and nor do I expect peace of pact-keeping of any sort from the Swedes. While the references Wiglaf may be making are obscure, to say the least, his quote generally characterizes how the tribes were constantly at war with each other, and the peace during Beowulf's time was an exception. It creates a juxtaposition that shows that when the Christian hero, Beowulf, dies, that peace is unable to be kept, because they do not have a strong Christian leader in place to rule the nation. It portrays Christian leadership as necessary to rule a country and keep the peace, and also keep peace amongst other tribes as well. The scribe recording the story lived in a time when virtuous leadership that prioritized a kingdom's subjects over all others were valued. And this comes before Machiavelli's realistic politics, where politicians began playing the politic game just for themselves and their own personal gain. While the story of Beowulf is definitely an epic, modern applicability is lacking. Learning how to bind ourselves to solely Christian values would not make us successful in our secularized world. Although it does provide some historical lessons in the prevalence of Christian politics, it is generally not used to institute amongst our everyday lives.